Allow me come in here. That was what we're trying to ask Mr. Ejiofor, because if you say they're professionals, now you've used another word to show that truly they are professionals, that they understand the workings there. How come someone with firm understanding and fair knowledge of some operations wouldn't be able to make it work at the end of the day?
Yeah, because there's a general failure from some other sectors, from some other levels, failure of the political process in this country. Because you see, the issue is that if we talk about, where we are today, not being where we should be, then that implies really that there's been a failure virtually all along the system. And you cannot remove the civil servants really from being active participants or colluding with those who have brought the system to its knees. So they are as much involved in the process as as all the other people. But then you see, it has to flow from somewhere. Like I said, somebody has to. You talk about the culture. What is the endemic culture in this country? There's a culture of corruption that involves everybody that is in a position of authority. That starts from the politicians, especially the political appointees or those elected into positions of authority in the country, and then flows down all the way. Because, like I was saying, the civil servants sometimes can go it alone, depending on the nature of the corruption that is about to take place. They understand the system very well, like I have said. But again, is it possible? Because they are not supposed to do, some of these things that they do without supervision. You understand? There's a process. If you look at the Fiscal Responsibility, Act, for instance, it gives you, there are laid down processes for, doing certain things, especially with regards to monetary policy, budgeting, and the rest. The Public Procurement Act, the same thing, also gives specification. So at no time, it is always very easy to determine when somebody has deviated from set down laws. It is easy. Now, why is it that everybody finds it very convenient to turn away from these violations? Perhaps because so many people from the system, are being, fed by corruption, and so everybody's hand essentially is dirty. You understand? So when they see people, even civil servants themselves, going contrary to the laid down civil service laws and so on, they tend to look the other way because they need also to work with them.
But we shouldn't be looking the other way. Remember, sorry, Nota, when you were talking about putting in some checks in times past, let's also remind ourselves that presently we also have what they call Servicom. Yeah. And you see the box and you see the sign in almost all offices that tells you if you have some kind of delayed service delivery or delayed, or someone is trying to be a corrupt official, knowing full well that talk or the gist about not on seat or missing files, these are some of the complaints you can actually file into the Servicom office. It seems that people haven't even taken the opportunity of going through that.
I know that some of these non-governmental organizations have done a lot of work with regards to, also being involved in the reform process, within the structure of the civil service. In those days, reforms for the civil service used to be hierarchical, starting all the way from up to down. It was later that, say the civil service, the civil society organizations also became involved in the process because they also realized the need to also try to help from the outside, and that is the essence of even the Servicom project. A lot of them have been involved in this. Even the issue of the public procurement bill, when it was eventually passed and so on, civil society organizations were instrumental, to having that law see the light of day. So these things are there. But I think again is that yes, and I think that some of these reports are being made on a daily basis. But you have, a very serious, difficult situation where virtually every sector of the Nigerian political economy is corrupted. Okay. And so there's an endemic culture of corruption and inefficiency and ineptitude, prevailing. So the very little effort that is being made, for instance, by, just the example you gave, Servicom and so on, seems to be a tip.
Okay,
the iceberg,
They say it is believed that the politicians are accountable to the people. Do the civil servants realize they are accountable to the people?
No, I do not think that. I do not think that that thinking has been ingrained in the average civil servant. I do not think so. I think it is more, just like you said, a direct relationship between the politicians and the people who have to go to the people, for the renewal of their mandate. You understand? So there is always that, consciousness by the average politician that one day he has to account to the people. And so when you have a process, for instance, for bringing him into power that is transparent, that is legitimate and so on, he finds it very difficult to do certain things.
Do you think
and then get away with it? Now for the civil servant, I think it is different. I think they are looking, they have not gone beyond looking at their direct relationship with the Civil Service Commission itself.
Is it a process of the recruitment pattern?
The
or
process,
orientation when they are recruited?
I think it has more to do with not just the process of recruitment, because I mean some of them go through the process of examinations and so on, and on the basis of how well they have performed in these examinations, they are recruited into the civil service. Okay. But I think that there's a fundamental problem with the orientation of the average civil servant, that they have not been able to imbibe him with this belief that he is working for the country, he is working for the people, and that any deviation from the rule has a way of affecting him, maybe not directly, but indirectly later.
Okay, I'm still trying to look at this, where you talked about the civil servants going or not going alone, going with the politicians, that there's always that sort of relation. But there's a case here, maybe you should talk about it too, because it was on last week where the ICPC arraigned 2 officials of the Office of the Head of Service of the Federation. That was before Justice Hussein Baba Yusuf for corruptly enriching themselves with pension funds. John Emmanuel and Gloria Filajigbe. Emmanuel was a data processing officer. He was attached to the Pensions Reform Task Team, while Filajigbe worked as an office assistant in the same office. And it was a 31-count charge, which they were trying to perpetuate a fraud of 30 million naira. And in this case, no politician mentioned in this one. So,
yeah, that was why I said that in some instances they can go it alone, and they do go it alone. But then the problem is this again: we are supposed to have a commission, a pension commission, that is supposed to supervise the working of the pension scheme in Nigeria. So, and how up and doing are they? Fine, you also, well, say, okay, fine, they are also civil servants. So if you also say that they are civil servants and they are not able to regulate their own people also, then you also talk about, you know, the failure of the institution itself. The pension commission as an institution also has failed, and that is why you see some of these things going on. But again, I think the light in the horizon is the fact that these people were actually caught, because if they were not caught, so the failure itself is not total, but a successful prosecution of these people would actually determine, you know, the quality of intervention of the relevant agencies that are actually investigating these people. So these are some of the things I'm saying. Yes, sometimes they go it alone, but a lot of times they can actually begin the process of corruption, for instance, and finish it on their own, even without the involvement of the politician. But I do not think that there's any politician or political appointee that can start, the corruption of process without having to make use of the civil servants.
Okay.
And that this is the clear distinction.
Okay, you just mentioned something that just got me thinking. If you say the Pension Commission has failed in monitoring the pension program of the government, what about the Civil Service Commission? Would you say they've also failed in supervising what goes on in the structure? To
the extent that the civil servants are today so much maligned in this country, and that people do not have any level of confidence in civil servants in this country, then you would say that the Civil Service Commission has failed. Because the essence of that commission is to build a workforce that the average Nigerian will be proud of. A workforce that is efficient, a workforce that is committed and dedicated, to serving the interests of the Nigerian government, and indirectly working for the progress and the prosperity of the Nigerian people. So the fact that, for instance, you talk about missing files and so on, that has been with us for so long. It is clearly a failure of, the institution of, or the Civil Service Commission.